is designed to help people in retirement transition successfully in 5 different areas. So the first area would be self-identity and purpose. Next is health and wellness. Next is social life, then personal relationships, and financial stability. So obviously, protecting yourself from scammers falls under that financial stability category, because we don't want to be taken. And there are apparently, as you're about to learn, some proliferation of scams related to COVID-19. So I'm glad you all are here to get informed, to protect yourself about that. I would like to introduce our speaker now, and then at the end, we're just going to turn it over to her. Make sure you are on speaker view so you can see her presentation. And then afterwards, like Kathleen said, we'll go back to gallery view, and I will conduct the Q&A, or at least help Mary do that. And you can submit questions on the chat or just wait for me to call on you. So Mary Tritsch is the Associate State Director for Communications and Outreach for AARP Kansas. She serves as the liaison to the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Prior to joining AARP in 2002, Mary worked for the Kansas Attorney General's Office for 15 years, serving as the Director of Communications and Personnel and Public Information Officer. Mary also worked as a broadcast reporter and TV news anchor for 7 years for KSN TV in Topeka and KSHB TV in Kansas City. She's a graduate of the University of Kansas with a degree in broadcast journalism. The AARP Fraud Watch Network is working to empower consumers to protect against fraud and scams through the use of proven tools and resources, including a scam tracking map that tells about fraud in local communities and across the country. And so without further ado, Mary, take it away.
All right. Can everyone see me?
Yes.
Are we good to go? Okay. Well, as Kathy said, I'm representing the AARP Fraud Watch Network. It was started about 7 years ago with the main purpose of helping people protect their financial security, especially if you've retired and you've invested all your life. You don't want to lose your money to a scammer. So we want to make sure that you have the information that you need, not only what scams are going around, but what you can do to prevent being a victim of one. Scammers steal about $6 billion a year, about 10 million here in Kansas, from unsuspecting consumers. And so today I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of those scams and what you can do to avoid them. And we're going to concentrate on coronavirus scams because that's what's in the news right now. And that's what scammers do. They take what's in the headlines, what people are very concerned about, and they figure out a way to make a scam out of it. So while scientists and medical professionals are working overtime to find ways to test for and stem the virus, the Federal Trade Commission is telling us that there's a lot of bad actors out there who are working very hard themselves to deceive consumers and steal their money. So over the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about why the current coronavirus pandemic presents an opportunity for scammers, and then some of the most common types of scams that they'll engage in. So now I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint, and hopefully we can transition here so that we get the PowerPoint. Can you see that? Well, I'm going to assume that you can. So, as I said, we're going to concentrate on avoiding coronavirus or COVID-19 scams. So, like I said, why coronavirus scams? Well, because they're in the headlines, and that's what people are worried about. And it makes people be in a heightened emotional state, and that's what scammers like the best, when people are not quite thinking the way they should because their emotions are taking over. We all know that there is fear and anxiety about many things related to the COVID virus, and they know that. We're also concerned about financial downturn and what's going on with job losses and business closings. And there's also a scarcity of goods and services. As we know, there was a shortage of toilet paper, hand sanitizer, cleaning products, and they're going to take advantage of that, and are concerned and our desire to get a hold of those products no matter what we have to do. So one of the big things I want to talk about is the stimulus payment scams, because this is where the scammers are going to try the hardest to get your hard-earned money and the money that's being provided through the stimulus payments. They started off right off the bat texting people, calling people to offer to help speed up people's stimulus payments. In fact, the first day that the stimulus payment was proposed, we heard from people that they'd gotten texts and phone calls about getting them help and receiving their checks. So be careful about that. And it's mainly that information they want. They're going to try to get personal information from you, like your bank account number. They say, well, we'll deposit it directly into your account, but we need your bank account number, or we need your social security number to make sure that we get it to the right person, or any other kind of payment information. Be careful about providing that to anyone you don't know. They may claim to be from a government agency like the IRS, the Treasury Department, Social Security Administration, any kind of official sounding organization that you're familiar with, so they can convince you to give up your money. Okay. So what do we do to protect ourselves? First of all, and I know it's hard sometimes, but you need to ignore those contacts. Keep informed what's in the newspapers, what you hear on the news shows. They're going to tell you information. But if someone out of the blue that you don't even know contacts you about this and is trying to get personal information, just ignore it. Definitely do not give out any personal information, especially your bank account number and your social security number. And if you want to check things out, if they're telling you things that you don't know whether they're true or not, seek out a trusted source. Go to the website for the IRS, which is irs.gov, or the Social Security Administration, and find out directly from those websites where you can get the information. And I have to tell you right now, we have a situation where we know that about 4 million people who don't have direct deposit through the IRS are being contacted by the IRS with what they call economic impact payment, or EIS, and they're getting a letter from the IRS that says the card that's in the letter tells you that you need to call the phone number and you need to register the card with a PIN number. And you also need part of your social security number. So it sounds really fishy, and it's something we tell people all the time not to do. When you get something like that in the mail, ignore it. But in this case, we have to say, that in order to get that economic stimulus payment, you're going to have to follow those directions. So what you can do to protect yourself is first know that this EIP, or economic stimulus impact payment, will arrive in a plain white envelope, and it will be from the Money Network Cardholder Services. Be careful when you call the number. They'll tell you to call a number. Be careful that it's the exact number that's indicated in the enclosed letter. Don't search the internet for a number, because if you do that, scammers are bound to set up fake customer service numbers to try to deceive people into sharing their personal information. Don't share your PIN number or your EIP debit card number or your social security number to anyone who calls or texts you. It's a scam. And check your mail carefully to avoid tossing your EIP card out with your junk mail. If you've destroyed or thrown your card away, you can call a customer service number to ask for a replacement. So when we first heard about this, we thought, oh my gosh, how are people going to know what the difference is? Is this legitimate or not? But those are the things to look out for. First of all, if you don't do direct deposit, you may be one of the 4 million people who will get this gift card. And then if you do, and like I said, plain white envelope, you may think it's junk mail, but open it up and make sure to follow the directions to the T. And hopefully, if that's something you don't think will happen to you, it's a great thing to be sharing with people you know. So know the facts. That's important. And there's various websites that are official that you can go to find out those facts. Don't wait for some scammer to try to tell them to you. Some of the other scams that are going around are the health and testing scams, deceptive advertising, promotion or sale of unproven products claiming to be effective in preventing or treating coronavirus. Watch out for ads, bogus websites, email, and social media that push supplements and even cures. Scammers might impersonate agencies like the Center for Disease Control, CDC, or the World Health Organization, or WHO, to try to sell products or gather for personal information. They may tell you things like, this is mandatory, you have to do this. But if it's not coming from an official agency, don't do it. Scam emails or other contact purporting to come from recognized organizations urging you to complete a mandatory COVID testing by a certain date. And that's the key there. If they're telling you you need to do this by such and such a date, it's probably a scam. They're just trying to rush you into doing something without thinking about it. Scammers are using emails to contact people. They're using robocalls. To convince consumers that they can purchase a test kit that works at home. We know that's not true. And like I said, they may impersonate government agencies, and by doing so, you think it comes from somebody official and they need your personal information, your financial information. No, it's not true. Those government agencies would not ask for that type of information from you, even if they did have test kits for sale. So how do you protect yourself? And this is real important. First, recognize what the scam is, and then how do you protect yourself? Well, first, know that right now we don't have any known treatments, cures, or vaccines. So if someone tries to sell you some of that, just say no and ignore them. Listen to your doctor or trusted organizations, or go to the CDC website and find out the official guidance. Avoid scare tactics or special offers to close the deal. When you get an email from somebody and there's an unfamiliar link in it, don't click it. If there's an unfamiliar attachment and you don't know who it's from, don't click on the attachment. Those are ways to get into your computer. And most important, don't give out your personal information, especially don't give out your Medicare number to anyone outside of your trusted healthcare providers. No government agency or any legitimate healthcare organization will send you an unsolicited email or text about coronavirus testing, testing kits, or personal protective information such as face masks. And another scam that's popped up, actually it's a scam that's ongoing. We hear a lot about charity scams where people are trying to donate to a cause. Well, same thing is happening with coronavirus. Charity scams are often follow disasters or tragedy. They're trying to tug at your heartstrings or your patriotism or your emotions where you want to give, you want to help, but please be careful. They're going to give you high pressure tactics tell them that you can help somebody, that they need your help, and make you feel bad if you don't contribute. And again, they use well-known names. There may just be a couple words off, but they sound like charities that you probably know, but they'll add a word or something into it and make it sound like a charity that you want to give to. And they often require you to act quickly. They use high-pressure tactics, and they want to make you act before you do any research. So what you can do, here's how to protect yourself. Check before you donate. There's a couple websites you can go to. One of them is charitynavigator.org, and you can find out, plug the name of the charity they want you to donate into that and find out more information. The next one is www.give.org. Be sure to ask questions. How much of the money that you're donating actually goes to the charity? How much is retained by the professional fundraiser? And is your donation tax deductible? I think one of the most important is how much actually goes to the charity that you donate to. And never send anything in cash or gift cards or wire transfers. The reason they ask for these are they're not as traceable. So if you send cash, they can't. Your money is gone. Gift cards, same thing. We can't trace it back to you. Okay, and another scam is stay-at-home scams. They know, the scammers know everybody's at home, and so there have been some scams that have popped up. One is a home air duct replacement. They're going to offer to sanitize your home or your business and conduct an air duct repair and cleaning. And mainly it's to gain access to your home, ask you for payment up front. So once you've given them the money, it's going to be gone. Another one, and this is one that we hear all the time, is romance scams, but it's particularly popped up right now because people are staying at home. They think they're bored or lonely, and you don't have to be on a dating site to be targeted by a romance scam. Many of them originate on social media sites and apps. So ignore and report any requests for money, goods, or personal information. And the way those work are you hook up with somebody on a site, you're talking to them over the internet, you know a lot of information about each other, and then usually they gain your trust enough that they need money for something. They need an operation, they want to travel, they want to come meet you, but they don't have money to travel. So there's lots of ways they can get money. So be careful about not giving any money away or any personal information. And then there's the puppy scams. I think we've all heard in the news that people are adopting animals more now that they're staying at home. People are looking for companionship, and they might be vulnerable to fake websites. And the big scam is paying for a puppy that doesn't even exist. So you have to be careful about that. So how do you protect yourself? Only accept help from people you trust. Screen your calls and don't engage. I know a lot of people are making sure that they see the number, and it used to be that you could say, oh, well, that's not in my area code. But now scammers are spoofing phone numbers that you think may be someone you know, maybe a neighbor, maybe local city hall or county. And so you think, oh, I should answer that. But the best thing to do is only answer the phone calls that you know who they're from. People say it's best not to pick up and engage at all. Sometimes we're so curious, though, it's hard when the phone rings not to answer it. So if you do that, be sure not to engage with whoever's on the phone that you don't know. And don't talk to strangers on social media, and never send them money. I know I've gotten some requests on my Facebook page for people to be friends, and I look at the name, I think, I don't know you, and I don't think I'm forgetting that I know you. So I just delete the request and don't engage with them at all. And if you do want to answer the phone, have a refusal script. Have something in your head where you just tell them, no, I'm not interested. Or some people have very clever scripts that try to engage the person in a different way, like, let me speak to your boss, or I'm going to report you, or whatever your trick is. Just be sure not to engage. So then there's some other scams with a COVID twist. There's employment scams, and it's only natural with such high unemployment rates. Scammers are looking to lure job seekers into their traps. So avoid opportunities that sound in any way out of the normal. Be particularly skeptical of work from home opportunities and jobs that sound too good to be true. And I think that theme should go through your mind when we talk about any scams. If they sound too good to be true, they are. Another one is a loan debt consolidation scam. So with the economic downturn and people out of work, more people are looking for financial assistance, and scammers will also be hunting for those in need. So if you do need to seek financial assistance or know someone who does, be sure you're seeking it from a trusted source and avoid unsolicited offers. And there's a new scam going around. It's an extortion or blackmail scam. The scammers will contact you and claim to have evidence of illicit activity by you or your spouse, such as visiting adult websites. They will share with you a password you may have used in the past or are still using to make you think that they know. They threaten to share the evidence on social media unless you pay them, usually by Bitcoin. So know that these scammers don't have access to your device. And they have a password because they bought it along with thousands of others following a data breach. To be safe, change your passwords regularly and use a unique password for each account, and report extortion emails to the FTC, which can be contacted at ftc.com/complaint. Excuse me for a second. So some general tips to protect yourself. First of all, don't let anyone have access to your personal information. This includes your social security number, your banking information, any other kind of financial information that you may have. Next, answer calls only if you're sure who's calling. Do your research. Actively seek reputable information from trusted sources about trending scams and fraud. Engage your inner skeptic when considering offers coming your way or threats to act quickly. And share your story. We really encourage people to do that. Sometimes it may be embarrassing when something has happened to you and you feel bad for falling for it. But if you're targeted or victimized by a scam, be sure to tell others so they can avoid the scams themselves. And again, you can report it to the ftc.gov/complaint. Now, as I told you, the AARP has a fraud watch network, and I encourage all of you to visit this website. It's www.org/fraudwatchnetwork. We have a special section devoted to frauds and scams related to coronavirus, and you don't have to be a member of AARP to access it. In addition to free information and resources online at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork, you can sign up for free watchdog alerts that you'll receive by email every 2 weeks, and the alerts will keep you up to date on the latest ways criminals are targeting people. I know I always enjoy getting those in my inbox because I know then that's something that's going around and I should be on the lookout for it. So on this site, you will also take advantage of our scam tracking map. You can see a picture of the map. You can click on Lawrence, Kansas, and find out what frauds and scams are going around there. But it helps when people report the scams, because that's how we get the information for the website. So we encourage people, if you know something is going around, be sure and report it. And you can read about scams that are reported by others in your county or close to home or anywhere across the nation. So if you're unsure if you've been a victim of a scam, or maybe a neighbor or a family member, we have an 800 number that you can call it. It's a network helpline that through the Fraud Watch network. And they field about 6,000 calls per month from people. And I've actually never called it myself, but I know that it's very valuable to people, because you can not only ask them, is this a scam, or I heard this, but maybe you're embarrassed to tell anybody else. So you can call the helpline and let them know that you're having concerns. So we hope that you've learned some good information today about the scams and frauds that are going on and how to protect yourself. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I'd be happy to answer some questions now.
Unmute myself. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mary. I have one comment on the chat. So if you have a question or a story to share, you can let me know on the chat feature, or we'll try this, hand raising method here soon. But I wanted just to touch base on that extortion scam, because my husband got a similar email, the one where they're saying, we've caught you, we've hacked into your computer and we've seen you on this adult website, and we've videotaped you, and we're going to, if you don't send us money, we're going to send this video to all of your contacts. I think it was a Bitcoin sort of thing. Well, the weird thing was, and I wanted to ask you about this, Mary, it went into my husband's text, so they were using his cell phone number, but it was addressed to another person altogether. It was addressed to a person first and last name, which was not my husband's name, but it ended up being someone I knew pretty well, that I had actually worked with at the Journal World years ago. So I called him and said, hey, I don't know what's going on here. But then the very next day, my husband used his cell phone to call our neighbor who had a landline, and this person I used to work with's name popped up on the caller ID. So we still don't know what happened. They haven't bothered us again, but it was that same extortion scam, but it was, misrouted, I guess. Have you heard of that happening?
Yeah, or possibly the scammers did a spoofing. They found another number that you thought was your neighbor, and they pulled that number and called you. So that's and that's the scary thing. I mean, that's when you've tried everything you can to protect yourself, but you just hang up, or you never know what the scammers are trying to do and how they get the information they get.
Right. So we do have a comment here, which I'm going to pull up. This is from Ellen Paulson, who's here somewhere. There she is. I can't see her, but she says, frequently I get an email that says if I don't update my, quote, outdated email immediately by clicking on the enclosed link, I won't be able to access my emails. This is especially funny when the email is several days old.
That's one of those things where if you don't know where the email is coming from, just don't click on the link. And that's the kind of thing where if you're concerned about it, what if I don't do what they're telling me I need to do, that's when you seek out another place to get the correct information, because it's really scary when you get things that you don't know where they're from and you click on a link or you click on an attachment and they're going to take you places you don't want to go.
Okay, so let's unmute Judy Belome. She has raised her hand. Ask to unmute. Oh, I guess you're going to have to unmute yourself, Judy.
Actually, she's unmuted.
Okay, go ahead.
I think I did it. I got one within the last 2 months that came to my email address from somebody that is one of my email friends that now has moved to Kansas City. And I knew that she and her husband were going to be taking a cruise. So this must have been February before COVID came. So longer than I thought. And the email said, I have lost my credit cards and my purse, and I need you to email me some money to this. I think it was $200. And I did know her. I did know she was supposed to be out of the country. But what I did is, because I was really worried, I called the cell phone that I had for her. And she answered and she said, no, I didn't lose anything. I have my purse. It's a scam. Hang up. So that really fooled me, because if I hadn't been able to reach her, I guess I would have assumed maybe that she didn't have cell phone time, and I might have been tempted to try and help her out.
Yeah, Judy, that your instinct what was important there. You know, you checked it out before you responded, and sometimes you just don't think something is quite right. And I think that the grandparent scam is an example of that. And I've talked to so many people who've gotten that phone call saying, hey, I thought it was my granddaughter. She was on spring break. She got stuck in Florida. She needed me to send her money. And people have done it, you know, because their emotions are heightened. They want to do everything they can for their grandchildren. But the best thing you can do is hang up the phone and call their parents and find out if that's true or not. You know, it may be that your granddaughter isn't even on spring break. So instead of going with your emotions, that's when you have to think logically and check it out first before you act.
Yeah, they're good. It was a plausible, to me it was plausible. But you're right, you kind of get that instinct, so.
Well, we have a question from Debbie Sack. What about Facebook requests from friends who are asking to have you donate for their birthday? Donate to a particular cause for their birthday. Are some, most, all of these okay to donate to?
You know, that's a very hard question. That's when you either trust it depends on the friend. Are they, you know, someone that you trust? But I would check out the charity, and a lot of those GoFundMe's don't have that, but you can usually find a website or some other information to indicate what, you know, that it's legitimate. That's a hard one, though. There's a lot of Facebook charities, but I would go and find that charity on my own on the internet and make sure that's a legitimate charity, or go to the websites that I gave you for charity and click on those. Or if you're very concerned but you want to give, just don't give a large amount. You know, it's sometimes they're hard. A lot of those are based on tragic circumstances. Your heartstrings are pulled, but you want to make sure that the money's going to the right place and to a person that legitimately has had that happen to them, not just somebody out there who, oh, I'm going to take this opportunity and make a GoFundMe page. I know I've read where some of those GoFundMe pages aren't legitimate. So you just have to be very careful. And, you know, if you are concerned and you want to give and you know the person or someone connected, call them directly and find out if it is legitimate.
Thank you. Joy, you asked report scams to who, and there's a URL on the chat, but I will read it. It's FTC, I'm assuming that's Federal Trade Commission, ftc.gov/compliant. So that's T as in Tom, c.gov/compliant is where you report the scams. And now from Aaron Schmidt.
It should be complaint.
Oh, complaint? Oh, I'm sorry. It does say complaint.
Yeah.
Kathleen typed, I read compliant. Because I am obsessed with people who are not complying with the mask rule. So that's on me. I'm sorry, complaint. Let me do that again. ftc.gov/complaint.
There you go.
COMPLAINT. Okay, so Aaron asks, is it true that correspondence from the IRS and other official institutions comes through the mail only, never phone, email, or text?
Generally, that's true. They're not going to text you. They're most likely not going to call you. That's not how they operate. They're going to contact you by mail. So that's the general rule. We have seen a couple of exceptions, but if you haven't made contact with them initially, where you've given them your phone number or text number to call you back, it's generally going to come through the mail. And if you do get a letter and you're concerned about whether it's legitimate, find the IRS phone number in a customer service that you can call and ask them that question. Check it out first.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have a question? And you can just raise your hand. Okay, there's Shelley. Shelley, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
I had a strange thing happen a few months ago. It was shortly after COVID-19 had started, the lockdown had started, where my phone made a noise. I don't know whether it was my normal ring or not anymore, but when I went to it, it wasn't either a call or a text. Instead, my whole screen was taken up with this advisory for me to put my health information on my phone. And I ignored it, but I never did know who it came from, how it got on my phone, or anything else. I don't know whether it was a fake thing or something real or whatever.
Mary,
Well,
any ideas?
you did the right thing. Definitely ignore it.
Okay. Angie says that emails that pretend to be from Amazon or Apple can be forwarded to stop-spoofing, so stop-spoofing at amazon.com or report-spoofing at apple.com. So thank you for that, I guess. Oh,
Yeah,
Angie,
and one thing you need to make sure of when you get something in an email that might look like an official website or it's coming from an official company, be sure and look very carefully at the email address, because some spoofers or fraudsters actually change the email address to look similar to the one that you think it's legit, but there's usually an extra letter in it, or they may say .net instead of .org when it's an organization. Just something's a little off, and so just be careful about that before you click on it to make sure it's actually from like Amazon.com.
Yeah.
hey, Angie, go ahead.
One other thing with those from Amazon or Apple or places you use regularly, if you click on your email, click on who it says it's from, even though it says from Amazon, click on that and it will show you the URL it came from, and it won't be that. It'll be something bizarre. Sometime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good piece of information. That is exactly right.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's something I did not have not heard before. Okay, anybody else? Just raise your hand and I will hopefully see you. There's Dave. Okay, I'm gonna unmute. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Okay, is there any risk to opening an email if you don't click on a link? If you don't really recognize it, but you wonder who it's from, you run a risk if you open it and don't click on any links inside of the email.
You do. If you don't know who it's from, definitely think twice before you click on an attachment or a web address inside an email. If you don't know where it's coming from, don't click it.
Right.
But
I know.
To open it,
Pardon?
not to click on any links, just to open it to see who the body of the
Opening it generally, I think, is okay. But I wouldn't if it's not from anybody you recognize. I would just delete. But yeah, if you don't actually go into the website or the attachment.
Okay. Thank you.
And the thing about this is, once we get used to doing something and we know what we shouldn't do, the scammers are going to come up with something new. So they're always thinking about things and how they can scam people. And once we tend to learn how to avoid them, they're going to come up with something. So I know it sounds a little discouraging, but if you protect yourself in the way of just not clicking on things or answering the phone or just being sure that you protect your financial personal information, you can be generally safe.
Okay.
Okay, there's Glenn. Hold on, Glenn. Okay, I think you'll have to unmute yourself there, Glenn. There you go.
Okay, what if it's something popped up, an email from someone that we know, but we haven't had contact with them for 15 years. And so my husband wouldn't let me open it, but.
Is there a way that you could email them back using
an email we had from before?
That you already have for them?
Not really. We kind of lost contact and their phone number and everything. So I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much you want to make contact with them.
The other thing is, I think you can set your email server or app to show a preview. So I don't do this anymore, but it used to be you could set it to show a preview so you could actually see the first 3 lines of the email without opening it all together. So that might be, you know, that might be something to try at least, so you could at least peek at it and see where they're, you know, what it's about.
I don't know. Somehow we lost contact, and they may still have our email. And I know he had cancer, so I didn't know if his wife was emailing us or whether just how somebody else just got his name and sending
That's a hard one, because I mean, I'm hearing during COVID, I'm hearing from people I haven't seen in years who want to talk or Zoom, or, you know, let's have an 8th grade reunion on Zoom. And it's, you know, you sort of want those contacts, I would think, but it's just terrible. We're also afraid to, you know, open them up. Anybody else? Just put your hand up if you have a story or a question. Nope.
Yeah, you know, this is a good time for sharing too, because like I said, if people don't share their stories, and other people won't know what's out there. Of course, you can always go to the Fraud Watch map and click on your area and find out what's new. And we have articles all the time on that website that will tell you what are the new things going on. Like this stimulus one, when we first heard the IRS was sending out gift cards, but not through the IRS, through another agency, then we thought, oh my goodness, people are, that sounds like a scam. People are going to think that. And people did. And we know several people who called the Fraud Watch helpline and said, oh my gosh, I threw that envelope away. I thought it was junk mail. So, which is being good and being vigilant, but unfortunately this was legitimate, and but they just did it in a way that made it look like a scam.
Okay. Oh, you're not Debbie.
I'm scamming Debbie.
Okay. Go ahead, you scammer. You scammer, you. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is a story. We received an email from Chase credit card, and it said that there was some suspicious activity on our account, that someone had used our credit card 4 different times, 2 for certain amounts and 2 that Chase had stopped. So we weren't really sure exactly what to do, but we called Chase. Come to find out that wasn't even our card number. But the thing that they told us was that typically Chase would call you, but if they did send an email or some documentation, they would put the last 4 numbers of your credit card, and this email did not have it. So we went through about 3 or 4 hours of trying to make phone calls, checking up, figuring out what was going on. And lo and behold, it was somebody really trying to get us to contact them to give information about our credit card to them so they could check out the account. So you have to be careful. I mean, you get an email and it doesn't have all the information on it. A lot of times it's probably not an accurate email.
Yeah, and check your credit card transactions. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Kathy.
It's okay.
Yeah, it is. It's, they're going to try to do everything, and they're going to try to make it look as close to an official document or email as they can. So that was good of you to contact Chase. And I know I got a wallet stolen, and my credit card company called me right away, actually, and said, hey, are you in Chicago, and did you go here? And it turned out that no, I hadn't. My card had been stolen. But that's one reason we do recommend that you use a credit card versus a debit card for payments, is that the credit card companies won't let you lose that money. If it's a debit card, you can lose money if they drain your account. Credit cards, they can't do that. So it's a good thing to use credit cards.
Okay, anybody else want to share a horror story with us? Mary Johnson does. Hold on. Go ahead, Mary. Your mic is open.
Well, this is a credit card experience that I've discovered when I was traveling like to the East Coast. And I was trying to use my bank account's debit card in a grocery store and wouldn't go through. And so I called the bank. Seems as though I need to tell them I'm going out of the area so that they know that it's okay. So that might be a tip for everybody who's trying to do some travel, is to alert your bank or whatever cards you have with you that you are going out of town, so they can make a note on their file.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. And we have had to do that too, or it's just been recommended. And we've done it, before we took longer trips, not short trips. But I'm lucky to be married to somebody who checks our bank account every single day. So if there's an unexplained charge, we are on it. And I've had several. I've had to get new credit cards probably 4 times in the last 3 years. And one I think might have been that gas station scam where they had a reader on, maybe the pump. Are they still doing that, Mary? And then you put your credit card in and they get your number. And then the next day
They can't. Yeah.
Yeah. The next day.
I think the gas station companies, I think the companies have found found ways to make sure that doesn't happen. And a lot of them will ask you to put your zip code in. And so if someone's stolen your credit card, they may not know what your zip code is because your address isn't on it. So they've taken steps to not let that happen. That doesn't mean that it couldn't, but it's better now than it used to be.
This was probably about 3 years ago, and somebody just took the number and rode all over San Francisco for 2 days in a Lyft. 3 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, so anybody else want to share or add anything or ask anything before we go? Mary, thank you so much. It was, I already have a note that says good info. Thank you so much in the chat. I did want to put in a plug for a couple of other retirement boot camp programs that we have going on this summer. We play bingo every Tuesday, and we have just changed it to 4 p.m. instead of 10 in the morning. So starting next week, we're playing bingo, and it's really fun. And if you need something on Tuesday evening to do, maybe have with a glass of wine and a bingo game, you can register online at lplks.org/retirement. And then we also have a Friday morning coffee break when anybody can get on the Zoom with your cup of coffee and just chat. That's at 10 o'clock on Friday, and you can go to the same website and sign up for that. And then our next program like this will be August 6th, which is a Thursday at 4. And we're gonna do travelogue. We had a program that was called 20-minute travelogues, and it was very well received. And we firmly believe that we will travel again. And so we will be addressing maybe some safer ways to travel, and different destinations that you can put on your dream list when we're all released from this, that we're in now. So hope to see you there. Thank you so much, Mary. Thanks very much.
Thank you
for sharing your information. Thank you to all our
My
partners.
pleasure. Thank you for hosting.